Global urgency on sustainable solutions, digitally connected infrastructure, and rapidly advancing novel technologies has ushered aerospace into an exciting period of innovation, arguably not experienced since the dawn of aviation. Join us as we explore today's dynamic industry with distinguished visionaries, changemakers, policy creators, and the innovative ideas that are cultivating new frontiers across aviation, space, and defense. This is Wheels Up, the Future of Flight, with Alex Ramirez.
Welcome to our latest episode of Wheels Up, Future of Flight. I'm your host, Alex Ramirez, President, Culinary Group. It's an incredible time in aviation, space, and defense as the industry reimagines itself with new and novel technologies in areas like sustainable aviation, advanced air mobility, and commercial space travel. It truly is a generational moment for the industry. Today, we're joined by Angelo Collins, Executive Director of the Vertical Flight Society, also known as VFS. The VFS is a nonprofit organization that has been at the forefront of advancing vertical takeoff and landing aircraft and technology since being founded in 1943. The society has evolved under the vision of early helicopter industry pioneers and today plays a pivotal role in the advancement of eVTOL aircraft in the advanced air mobility sector. With over 15 years of aerospace engineering, project management, and technical expertise leading cutting-edge initiatives at organizations such as the DARPA Tactical Technology Office, primarily in vertical flight, Angelo is committed to propelling the advanced air mobility community into its next phase of global impact and innovation. As a key figure in the VFS community for over a decade, Angelo chaired the first Transformative Vertical Flight workshop in 2014, which many credit as a cornerstone event in the eVTOL sector. His academic credentials include a Bachelor of Science in Aerospace Engineering from the University of Maryland and a Master of Science in Engineering Administration from Virginia Tech. Welcome, Angelo. It's a pleasure to have you, and congratulations on your new Executive Director role.
Yeah, no, thanks, Alex. And that was a great intro. I appreciate that. Makes me sound important.
You are. VFS is a great organization. So can you share a little bit about your own journey into the aerospace industry? So why aerospace engineering? What got you into the industry?
So in high school, I liked making paper airplanes. That was one of the starting points.
Awesome.
I was good at math. I was creative. And when you're a kid, truthfully, nowadays, it's probably especially challenging for some of these kids to decide what they want to do when they're 17. Like, all right, you're going to spend $120,000. You're going to go to college, and then you're going to study the discipline that you'll be doing for the rest of your life, right? Yeah. And I had the same challenge. I was going to become a priest. I'm Greek Orthodox, and that was what I thought would maybe be my path. And I went to the seminary. It's in Brookline, it borders Brookline and Boston, and I'm originally from Massachusetts myself. And I'm like, what kind of math classes do you guys have at the seminary? They're like, not too many. And I was like, yeah. And then I just decided, engineering is for me. I like math. I do like aviation. A lot of kids that go into aerospace engineering actually don't necessarily have a passion for aviation. Those are the kids that maybe want to become pilots and mechanics, go to the Air Force. Aerospace engineering grads generally enjoy math, enjoy problem solving, and enjoy a challenge. And aerospace engineering is a challenge. And so I had a lot of friends that were doing other things that would challenge. Like I had a friend that was in my class that became an American Ninja Warrior. He's always looking for a challenge. He's on TV all the time. That was really cool. And others like valedictorians, they were trying to look for something that was challenging for them. And so that was a bit of my path, applied to the schools as a typical student would, and ended up at Maryland in part because it was a little further south, the weather was nice, and they had a good aerospace engineering program. So that was one of the reasons I chose Maryland.
From seminary school to engineering school, what a journey. Thank you for sharing that. That's inspiring. Now, let's just talk about big challenges in the industry. The Vertical Flight Society is right at the forefront, right, of leading kind of this big change that's happening across our industry. Can you share a little bit more about the organization, the mission, and your particular vision for the Vertical Flight Society?
Yeah, so the Vertical Flight Society plays a special role in this domain. Vertical flight is a fairly niche discipline. And when we say vertical flight, we're talking about spinning blades, and generating lift from what you would call a propeller or a rotor blade, and there are differences. whether it's ducted, whether it's open, what's the swash plate look like. And so, yeah, we were founded in 1943 as the American Helicopter Society. We're still technically the American Helicopter Society. If you want to look at our taxes in 990s, that's what you got to look up. But we embrace the fact that it's not just helicopters, especially with the advent of distributed electric propulsion, lighter, more efficient motors and battery systems to distribute your power across multiple rotors. And, we're seeing that come to fruition now with this electric VTOL, electric aircraft boom. But we're advocates for the advancement of vertical flight, and that's what we do. We work with the engineers. We celebrate the engineers. We celebrate students that are interested in studying this discipline, helping them with scholarships or other opportunities to volunteer their time. We have student chapters. We have just general chapters across the country and internationally for engineers, scientists, and anyone that's interested in learning about vertical flight, talking about vertical flight from a technical perspective. And we, of course, have our annual forum once a year. It'll be in May this year in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And it's an opportunity for folks to publish and write about their research in vertical flight. So we have students, engineers from the various companies, professors, and they come together, and we'll have over 300 papers. There's a little over 300 papers that were approved, or abstracts approved recently. So it gives them a venue to celebrate what they know and what they want to share, what they've been working on.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's such an impactful and influential organization in this vertical flight space. Now, you're being modest by saying, hey, making you feel important, but you're only the 7th leader of the Vertical Flight Society organization in over its 80-year history, which is quite impressive. Can you share a little bit more about the transition and, what inspired you to take on this leadership role?
Yeah, so, it hasn't. The Vertical Flight Society, a little bit of the history. We were founded in Stratford, Connecticut, of course, where Sikorsky got its start with Igor Sikorsky. And we moved a few different times. Our headquarters ended up in New York for a period of time. While it was in New York, we actually shared an office with the AIAA, which some folks probably are familiar with if they track the nonprofit, professional nonprofit domain. And then moved down to DC. A lot of that's still, I'm still seeing that. I live here in Arlington, Virginia, right outside of DC, and a lot of companies move their headquarters here now just because of how large the federal government's grown. It's a good place to have headquarters. And so we realized that and moved the headquarters to Old Town Alexandria. But we, with that history came an individual to not only run the day-to-day operations of a nonprofit, but also be a champion for the nonprofit and a face. The board of directors just this past year, through the interview process, decided to have a slightly younger face and to come with some new ideas and to refresh and rethink what the Vertical Flight Society can provide to its members and to the community as a whole. So then with a younger kid, I mean, I'm not a kid anymore, but historically, the former executive directors were actually maybe former pilots, former Air Army aviators. We had the predecessor, Mike Hirschberg, who I succeeded, is still on the staff and is still doing great work. But he gave the job 12 years and got a little burned out. But he's an aerospace engineer as well as myself. And so we're continuing maybe that theme where having an extroverted engineer seems to be the niche for this type of a role. And so it's been great. I started in June of last year. It hasn't been a full year. I got hit with the fire hose as far as how to run a nonprofit. There's a lot to that side of the business. 990s, the taxes, accounting, and finances. But, it's been great to just have this type of role and be able to work with such great members, 6,500 strong. It's been great.
Yeah, what an honor, man! And you're part of that next generation of leaders, right? With this transformative period in the industry. So congratulations to you, and excited to follow your journey and see where you and the community goes. I actually had the opportunity to meet Mike at last year's Vertical Flight event in Mesa that you guys held, which was a fantastic event. And,
Yeah.
it seems like the next installment is happening here next week in Santa Clara, California, which is in the heart of Silicon Valley, known for its innovation and tech and home to a lot of these new eVTOL companies. Can you share a little bit about the history of this particular event and anything that has you excited about this year's version?
Yeah. So it started, we were early adopters of electrification of aviation, I'll call it. I was at DARPA at the time. Most of my career was in support to DARPA. At the time, we were calling this type of technology distributed electric propulsion. We gave it an acronym. The military gives everything an acronym. And it came with the improvements on energy density of lithium-ion batteries and the realization that, okay, maybe we could get a battery that has enough energy density to fly something. Obviously, it's a challenge, the power to weight ratio to do aviation versus a car. And so at the time, we were looking at that. What's very challenging, and we're a technical organization, so I'll continue, but what's very challenging is the fact that when you're trying to distribute power in an aircraft, like behind me is the 609, right? Yeah. You have to use different transmissions, drivetrain systems, and you're spinning. There's spinning things and rods and gearboxes, and it adds weight and complexity. So if you could just run wires to a motor and have multiple rotors on an aircraft that generate power, there's inefficiencies in that. The most efficient vertical VTOL aircraft is one extremely long rotor that spins very slowly. That's the most efficient VTOL platform aircraft as far as your power to power ratios. But with the advent of being able to use lightweight motors and distribute those and run and have that power and thermal management system that can run, that's a challenge as well. But this was back 10, 12 years ago that we were started to realize, this is a thing. We could do this at a larger scale, not a little drone aircraft scale. So we had the first Transformative Vertical Flight event in 2014, just across the street from DARPA in Arlington, Virginia, and we had some famous faces, Joe Ben, who runs Joby now, and others, Mark Moore, who was doing Uber Elevate, I think, but he was a NASA employee. I was the administrative chair at the time and collecting presentations. I was a kid. And now we're up to our 11th Transformative Vertical Flight event. And it's, as you said, it's next week in Santa Clara at the Convention Center. We went from maybe about 100 people that attended 11 years ago. We're up to, around 600 folks at this event. Next week, we'll have an exhibit floor, and we'll have some aircraft on that exhibit floor, some electric VTOL aircraft, exhibitors with booths, including NASA and other companies. We'll have special sessions, folks from all the different eVTOL companies talking about what they're working on. We'll have some special announcements, including one in particular, a multi-million-dollar special announcement that we're excited to be able to share with the attendees. Wow. We'll have a gentleman from DARPA actually attending to announce a new program that they're kicking off. Last year, we were able to have the office director of TTO, DARPA TTO, announce the Sprint program, which is the high-speed VTOL program, at the MESA event, the eVTOL autonomous systems event. So we're excited. It's going to be a great turnout of some, talented folks, and we're gonna have a blast.
That sounds incredible, and talk about a teaser for big announcements next week. Yeah. So I'm sure it's going to be, you're going to have great participation. As I said, I had the privilege of attending last year and was amazed by the number and quality of attendees and the panels you had. I mean, just every single panel we went to was just incredibly insights and folks that are you can just tell are deep in the throes of, really transforming the industry, which is quite exciting. Now, beyond this event, I mean, the Vertical Flight Society has many events that are going on throughout the year. Can you maybe highlight some of the key ones that you want to bring attention to and you want listeners to know about and just kind of be aware of? Yeah,
as far as in the near term, we are also tracking, of course, not just electric VTOL or lithium-ion battery source power, but hydrogen fuel cells. Mm-hmm. And so we'll be teaming up with SAE at their event in Aerotech, and we're going to have our hydrogen symposium there. That's in March in Charlotte. After that, we of course have the Forum 80. So this is the 80th Forum in May in Montreal. I think we're expecting potentially a record number of attendees. So we're excited about that. We're going to try to drive more student participation. We historically have about 100 student volunteers that attend from all the different universities that have work in vertical flight. And we're also going to try to drive attendance from some of the local universities there in Montreal. So we're excited about that as well, the students studying engineering there. And Bell Textron, or Bell, has been gracious enough to sponsor the student volunteers this year. And so they'll be wearing a little Bell pin, and Bell's going to have a tour of their facility up there. They do assembly of their civil fleet of aircraft up there. So if you attend the forum, you also get a tour of the Bell facility in Montreal. In July, we have our electric aircraft symposium that's been going on for now, I think 18 years. We adopted it. It was an event that had been run separately, but we are now the owners of that event. And I think it's the 18th. And that event does include fixed wing, even though they're the Vertical Flight Society. But since we've been at the forefront of some of the electrification of aviation, we embrace the fixed wing as well. There's a lot of parallels and synergies. And so that one was fairly successful last year. We had over a couple hundred attendees. Again, a lot of the technologists from these eVTOL companies. And that's the weekend right before the big air show at Oshkosh. And so the timing is nice. And Oshkosh, the weather's beautiful that time of the year. There's a few other events. There's some international events. We're going to have we have the European Rotorcraft Forum that we help and participate with. That's going to be in southern France in September. And then we also have the Asian Australian Rotorcraft Forum. So if you think about it, there's the forum, which is run by the Vertical Flight Society, which is technically an international event. We also help with the European Rotorcraft Forum. And we also run the Asian Australian Rotorcraft Forums. We're hitting on almost all the continents. And that's going to be the Asian Australian Rotorcraft Forum is going to be it's in Australia. There's another event in Singapore. I might get them mixed up. We'll make a correction otherwise. But that's a recap for the year. I mean, we're looking out almost 2 years in advance sometimes. The Paris Air Show was last year, so this year it's Farnborough. Next year will be Paris Air Show, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it seems like you're going to be quite busy, and lots of incredible events that are coming up. One of the things that you highlighted that I want to pick out a little bit is the emphasis on that kind of the next generation, right? Students and really outreach to maybe STEM and getting folks familiar with everything that's going on in the industry and bringing in that next generation of workforce and leaders for the industry, which we desperately need, right? I think we all understand that. Can you share some of the specific initiatives that you have going on and why you feel they're important that VFS is focused on?
Yeah, it's critical that, it's easy enough to fill a seat, a company has a position open. We're looking for someone that understands electric drivetrain systems for applications on electric aircraft. And like, oh yeah, I studied electrical engineering and I've been working in cars in the last 10 years. Like I'll apply and okay, fill a seat. Like, oh yeah, this is a little different than when I was doing on cars. And the cooling required for these batteries is a lot more, challenging than it was for the car industry. And so, not just putting butts in seats, so to say, but getting these kids interested in electrification of aviation and VTOL disciplines at an early age while they're still even undergraduates. So a lot of what we do is really advanced level. There's not many schools that offer VTOL, rotorcraft, aerodynamics in undergrad. It's usually a graduate level course. And so one thing that we try to do is work with the universities to provide electives for students in vertical flight at an undergraduate level. We have members that are sitting on boards of the different schools. For example, the University of Maryland is now going to embrace this and introduce more electives for undergrad students in vertical flight. We, of course, the Vertical Flight Society has student chapters across the world, and they are all working hard to study this discipline and get together and do great things. One thing that we're going to try to set up this year is a student council. So representatives from all the different schools and serve in different director roles on that student council. We see a lot of potential synergies there. Sort of modeling this off of the fraternity systems and fraternal council, which is fairly successful. But the fraternity system is losing steam for various reasons. So we want to kind of steal that momentum from them if there's a void. Beyond that, we give out $100,000 in scholarships every year to students that are studying a vertical flight discipline. That is the Vertical Flight Foundation. Funds that are contributed to that are fully tax deductible. And we are seeing a 60% year-over-year increase in contributions since 2018 to that fund.
Wow. And
a lot of generous donors. Our individual members, individual donations make up a bulk of those donations. Mm-hmm. And so I think this year we'll be able to add another $10,000, so we'll do $110,000 in scholarships that we can hopefully sustain. So we're excited about that as well. So we try to do what we can for the students, and we give them opportunities. So they are, as you said, they're critical to this industry, and hopefully interested in working for some of the big contractors and not just doing entrepreneurial and startup stuff.
Yeah,
this needs to be a balance, but we're doing our best.
Absolutely. No, that sounds amazing, and very much needed. So I appreciate the work you guys are doing, because workforce, that next generation is very needed. And with that, I mean, the advanced mobility sector in general is just sure starting to feel real, right? I had the privilege of being at the Paris Air Show last year and seeing all the eVTOLs, right? You could go and see them for yourself. It's like, wow, this is actually happening. And so now you start to feel this real momentum, excitement, right? And folks getting excited about, hey, how do I really get involved with this? I mean, clearly still some engineering and certification challenges to get through, but now a lot of the talk is that next phase of public awareness and public adoption. Clearly, with our niche industry, folks know what's going on. We all kind of see what's happening, but folks that maybe are not familiar with the industry don't really know about this, right? It kind of seems like, oh, that's futuristic, and it's like, wait, this is getting pretty real. What is the Vertical Flight Society doing, or do you have any initiatives for raising public awareness and public adoption, which many are starting to really zero in on? Hey, like, this is going to be critical for the success of the sector.
Yeah, because I think that goes back to, as you said, even just the local municipal governments embracing or even being in support. I live in Arlington, Virginia. And I'd say the number one complaint of our constituents to our federal congressman, Don Beyer, is helicopter noise. We live next to the Capitol. There's folks going to the Pentagon or to Langley, CIA headquarters, all over the place. Yeah. And just in general, helicopters flying over. And helicopters, they're a little loud. Mm-hmm. And that seems to be number one complaint. I know that there's concern in general about any type of aircraft flying over anyone's home. I mean, one thing we're trying to do is embrace the developments that have been made in making these eVTOL aircraft more quiet than the conventional helicopter, for various reasons, just by the nature of how they operate and function with electric motors and whatnot. They're going to be a lot more quiet, and how we design the blades and how the rotor blades are shaped. Will also, support the noise reduction. And so that's something we want local municipal governments to know, that they're going to be a lot more quiet than potentially conventional helicopters. And so that's a good thing. And you guys should want these flying over your house or in your neighborhood. The second thing is trying to get the word out that this is not just for an exclusive group of wealthy individuals, they're developing these eVTOL aircraft and only the rich and powerful are going to be the ones using them. And that's not the case. And a lot of these companies have been trying to get that word out as well. And that's even, for example, Volocopter is a European-based company. And for the Paris Olympics, they have been working towards having operations of their city variant. And they're getting pushback from the mayor of Paris, in particular, because of this concern about elite and bourgeoisism, that this isn't, we don't want these fancy rich people like impression of these aircraft flying over our homes, these flying limousines or whatever they call them. And so it is a challenge. We're small but mighty, and we have great volunteers, but it is a challenge to get the word out. I think anyone has that challenge, regardless of what domain they're in, to have, positive PR. And the best we can do is be those smart engineers that kind of walk you through it. We're the scientists, so we know, what is good and what, is technically sound, and what as far as even like noise, we can give you all those decibel readings if you want. So there's things that we still need to do, and there's ways that we can do better outreach. We have our events, of course, but to hit that target audience, it's still something that we're tracking, and if any of the viewers have any suggestions, let me know.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fascinating to see how this just continues to unfold. Paris, right? I think all eyes in the industry are on Paris, and just to see how that plays out. And, you know, everybody's rooting, I think, for Helicopter for all the reasons you just pointed out, right? This is a great opportunity to really showcase what this industry, this sector is all about, and the value it can bring to society at large. So I'm really excited about that. Well, Angelo, this has been a fascinating conversation. And before we wrap up here, I mean, what's the best way for listeners to learn more about you and VFS and get in contact with your organization if they wanted to learn more? Yeah,
so we have, of course, a website, vtol.org, vtol.org. We also have evtol.news, which is a place where you can see aircraft directory of all the different eVTOL platforms. I think we're over 800 now. And we're on social media. We're on Instagram, and LinkedIn is a place that we try to post a lot of our content, in part because a lot of professionals are on there. Mm-hmm. But we have a Facebook page as well. And or you could just email or call me. Go on vtol.org, and I got my number and email if anyone wants to contact me directly. Awesome.
Well, Angelo, thank you again so much for joining us today and sharing your inspiring story and your thought leadership. I mean, this is an incredible industry to be following right now, in this sector especially. So, for anybody listening in, don't miss next week's VFS Transformative Vertical Flight event, again, taking place in Santa Clara, California. And please join us for our next episode of Wheels Up, Future of Flight, as we explore today's dynamic industry with distinguished visionaries, change makers, policy creators, and the innovative ideas that are cultivating new frontiers across aviation, space, and defense. Until next time, thanks again, Angelo.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode. To capture all the latest from Wheels Up, Future of Flight, you can follow us on LinkedIn. Be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes, or visit us at collineargroup.com.